Dark Souls.
We're talking about
Demon Souls.
Dark Souls. We're
Elden
talking about
Souls.
Demon Souls. We're talking about Sekiro. We're talking about Bloodborne.
We're talking about
We're
Last
talking
Remnant.
about Elden Ring. We're talking about Miyazaki.
Yeah.
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 So we're discussing the highlights and
The lowlights.
the low lights. I was trying to think of what
Not an expression that I'm aware of.
the low darks.
The low darks.
When they had the lights off.
Yeah.
Yeah. In these games. Now, Dark Souls 2 is actually not under his... Yeah, he wasn't at the helm on that one. But we're still going to talk about it.
Perfect.
And Jared's going to start us off.
Okay, great.
Okay.
So I want to know, you think I'm not prepared for this? You fool, you absolute fool. I can talk about anything for any amount of time.
I prepared for you to not be prepared and to be prepared.
Okay, great.
Okay.
I want to start this off by setting kind of a basis for everybody who's listening, because everybody knows I'm not the Souls fan here. You two are the ultimate Souls fans. I like some derivatives of the Souls genre. I like Elden Ring, and there are a lot of like offshoots that I really like. The Pinocchio game, quite fun. I like. But I want to know from your perspective, what is it that defines the experience for you? Because there have been so many games that have come out at this point that you really, there are so many permutations on the formula. What are the fundamentals for you? What creates that experience for you? What hits in that way that you're like, this is what I want from a Souls game?
Well, the Souls games have like stepped into my life, so like have made such an impression on me that it's almost like every game in between is like, this is what I play until the next Souls game comes out.
I'm just biding time, rather.
Exactly. Or maybe I'll go back and play another Souls game until the next Souls game comes out. So for me, it's like when a new Souls game drops, though, the level of excitement is super high, and you don't know what you're 100% what you're getting into, but you know you're going to face ridiculous obstacles and you're going to have to overcome them. But
yeah, it sucks, man.
Yeah, it's just an epic. Yeah. I don't know how to 100% describe it, I guess, but the sense of adventure is going to be like, you can't beat it. I haven't had that experience in another video game where I'm just like constantly wondering like what's around every corner and every nook and cranny, and just I have to fully experience like everything there is to experience about this game, and I have to know everything. And that's happened ever since the first time I picked one up.
Especially in adulthood, it is very hard to find a game that makes you want to put in the time and effort to 100% complete a game, I think.
Yeah.
It was a very rare experience for me also.
Do you have a better answer than me, Tylen?
I don't. I agree with you.
Do you have any answer at all?
No, I would definitely agree with you, Ryan. Is that...
Well, that's his answer. What's your answer?
Whoa.
Just say what I said.
Yeah. Is that there's no better sense of discovery than how it feels when you play a Souls game for the first time. It's definitely changed over since there's been so many, like you said, derivatives, Jared. And then as it's gone on, it's gotten to where it's a little bit formulaic, where we kind of, but I think Miyazaki is aware of that, and so he definitely does his best, and the team does their best to subvert expectations, but usually in a really good way, an interesting way. And they're always changing up, and they're not on the 20th Souls game, you know what I mean? They're doing things, experimenting with different games in between that, and I think that helps kind of alleviate some of those issues. But man, playing playing Demon Souls and then playing Dark Souls, but it's just like, man, I just want more of that. Just the challenge, but you're able to overcome the challenge. It doesn't feel cheap, which when there's a lot of like reproductions of that, like just certain other games that try to reproduce that same feeling, they often feel cheap. You know, they try to come in with a new idea, but it just feels cheap. Whereas Dark Souls, they just like nailed the decision making, like in the combat. It feels rewarding. It feels good to use, and it feels like if you make a wrong decision, that it was your fault. So, and then you just learn from that, and then you kind of repeat the process over and over and over again.
It's hard to go back and play the older titles because the combat has evolved and it's been tweaked. Every single game that comes out, you don't realize how much it's changed until you go back and play an old one. Even like the remaster of Dark Souls.
Yeah.
And then you go and play Dark Souls 2, and the combat's not even better or worse. It just depends who you ask. It's definitely different.
Yeah.
Some people say it's better, but I think most people say it's worse. But then Dark Souls 3 comes out, and the combat is just phenomenally better. It's way more responsive. You feel way more in control. And it's just a little faster paced, while Dark Souls 1 was very clunky. And then you have Bloodborne, which was just like, what if we just threw your shield away and just made this whole game 300% faster?
Comparatively, like hyper aggressive.
Yeah. And that was a huge change of pace that I was very worried about. But then once I came accustomed to it, I was like, yeah, this is...
You just got to learn to trust the process.
Yeah. And then Sekiro, which was like 500% faster.
Yeah.
And that's the only one that I actually haven't beat. I've always meant to go back and play it, and I just never found the time. I got pretty far into it. I want to say I felt like I was about halfway through the game. But I never made it to that giant monkey boss.
Yeah.
So I don't know how far that is in the game, but I never made it there.
The toughie, the real toughie in the game.
But I'm pretty spoiler free on that game. I haven't really looked up a bunch. I just know you showed me the monkey boss dude, the gorilla thing.
I've seen so many clips of that.
Yeah. But I will probably go back and play that. I still own it, so aware of it.
And I think a big thing for me in the Souls game in particular is that the fiction of the game is something that is conveyed to you in fragments. There is
subtle world building.
Right. There are, especially as the games have gone on, I think, especially in Elden Ring, there are like full-blown cutscenes where characters are expressing information to you and like pushing the narrative forward. But there's still a huge emphasis on reading item descriptions, and they're like bits of history that this item was involved in this event or whatever. And so you're piecing it together, and there's a very communal focus in Souls games where people are trying to like work together to put together the whole picture of what's happened in this world. I really like that. I think
me
that's
too.
Super interesting.
Yeah, I really enjoy that.
And I think that's part of why you and I both enjoy Warframe, is because that idea of want to dig.
We're gonna cut right here.
I promise I won't talk about Warframe.
Yeah.
We made an episode on First Descendant that never aired, and I'm kind of glad it did now because all my opinions have just 180'd from that episode of just like, no, I hate that game. Like after going and playing that and then going back to Warframe, I'm like, why would I ever play any other game like this? I will just play Warframe.
Yeah.
But I think that instinct to like dig and discover is embedded in the Souls games, and people who enjoy that process of discovery and finding things for themselves and not being spoon-fed information, because those things also lend themselves to, it's mostly narrative, but there are like strategic elements that you can pull out of that in terms of like the boss fights and how they fit together in the world, and actually get some kind of advantage, I think, for in some regards at least. Terms of like how to defeat these enemies is really interesting to me. So they get by a lot on their designs. I think their character designs are also super interesting. There are a ton of characters in those games that are like, I know almost nothing about them, but I would have a picture of them in my house or something. Like Melania looks incredible. Ronnie looks incredible. I'm sure there are some male characters that look incredible. Looking respectfully at the female characters in the Souls universes. But like Artorias, characters like that are just,
if you're talking about Elden Ring,
there are tons
Radon.
of super iconic characters that even people who don't play Souls games would recognize because they're just so prevalent in gaming culture now.
A Souls game to me is when I play a game, and then when the combat is challenging, and then if I die and then I have to go and collect my souls, then I'm like, oh, it's a Souls-like. That's to me is like, that's a Souls-like.
But that's become such a prominent part of games that even in games that I wouldn't even describe as a Souls-like, it's like, hey, go get your stuff. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Like, you don't understand why this like particular gameplay mechanic is compelling in the Souls universe, but you've taken it out and put it in here as like an artificial way to create difficulty. But it's just frustrating. It doesn't tie into any greater mechanical overarching theme or like anything like that.
It was Bloodborne where the enemy actually like a nearby enemy has your stuff.
Yeah, you have to kill that enemy.
So it's not just you can just sprint and go and get it.
Right.
Now you have to actually do some combat.
For me, I think overall, Bloodborne is probably the most actual Souls game that I've enjoyed. Like, I actually got pretty far into that game, enjoyed it on my own. Most of the time, if I'm playing a game like Elden Ring or a Souls game, I'm running it with you, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to fight my way to the next space where I can summon you, and then we'll do the same thing over again. But like with those games, like Bloodborne, Neo, those kind of games, I actually played them enough on my own to like become competent at them. And I really enjoy those games for a few different reasons. But I'm interested to hear, like, what are the highlights of the series for you? What are the highlights outside of that series for you? What other games do you think did something in that genre particularly well?
For me, I want to ask Taylin.
Sure.
20 years from now, we go into the future, and no other Souls games have come out. Okay. Which one do you pick up and play?
Good question.
We'll cut a lot of this.
It's probably going to be.
we're gonna have
It's either going to be. Well, Demon Souls remake. Okay.
I think that's a good answer.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
It's going to be between Demon Souls remake
And Death's Door.
No. Nice though.
No is the correct
Original Dark Souls or Bloodborne.
So no Elden Ring in there.
No Elden Ring for me.
It would be either Elden Ring for me, or, I mean, if we're saying only Miyazaki games, it would be.
I think I'm saying only Miyazaki games.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the easiest way to answer this question in a timely manner. It would probably be Elden Ring for me, even without the DLC, which I have not played yet. I would say, to me, that gives me the closest to what I want out of that experience.
Yeah.
What about you, Ryan? Tell me.
Let me think about it.
Okay.
It's your question. But
I tried to give you time to think back.
Now that you're asking me, let me put myself in your shoes.
You should. If only you had some way to prepare for this question.
Exactly.
I can't think of a way I could have prepared.
Nope, there is no way.
Except to play every single one.
That's right.
And figure out from there.
Yeah.
Honestly, man, probably Bloodborne.
Yeah. Think so.
I think that's a good choice.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. That one's just so good.
Yeah.
There's not a moment of that game that I dislike, I guess.
Really strong start.
Yeah.
I love the fiction in that game. Like, I like the fiction in all the games, but Bloodborne is the one that I've done the most, like, watching YouTube videos for. You know what I mean? I think I like the setting a lot. Like, I like the way that they portray, like, that Victorian era architecture and the city and everything feels very alive. Feels
None
like
of that
a real
aesthetic
place.
even really struck with me until Bloodborne, and now I just love that aesthetic. I don't know.
Enough dawdling, Ryan. Tell me, rate them.
I have literally given you so much time.
I think Elden Ring is a culmination of like everything that they've learned from making these Souls games.
Just say Elden Ring's 3.
But
it's at the top. What's the next
But
one?
the level design for me doesn't hit as hard as 1 or 3.
Okay.
Or even, it's better than 2, for sure.
Okay.
Wait, what is?
2's hilarious. You're like at a volcano, you go through a door, you're at a pirate's cove, then you go through another door, you're at like a wizard's tower.
I love
they
that.
did not know how to build a cohesive world.
No.
Well,
They
Elden
want
Ring-
pirates. They want pirates.
Yeah.
Give them pirates.
Like the world they designed in Elden Ring, it feels epic. But I don't like running around an open field forever and then running along some cave and hoping, or like a cliff wall, hoping to find a cave. Or just like the amount of things you have to check in every nook and cranny to find absolutely nothing in Elden Ring, while this Dark Souls, when you found a secret,
Uh-huh.
it felt a lot better.
Right. Yeah. More
For me,
rewarding.
like Elden Ring, when you go to Stormville Castle, that was like, oh, this feels like a Dark Souls game now. It's very tough to rank them. It's very tough.
Well, you got to do it.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's
Okay,
what I'm
I'll do it.
asking.
Elden Ring, then Bloodborne,
And that might be where I'm at.
Dark Souls 3, 2, 1, Demon Souls.
Okay.
Man, Demon Souls at the bottom, and Dark Souls 2 is like,
Not the remake. The original Demon Souls is at the bottom.
dang. Where's the remake?
I mean,
Who knows?
for you, this is your order of Souls games.
I want to go back to Firelink Shrine and hear that Firelink Shrine music that I got the question wrong on the quiz on a few episodes back.
Yeah.
But I love that music.
That song
Okay.
that I love so well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Elden Ring at the top.
Okay.
It's the one I have the most complaints about, but at the same time has
The highs are higher, the lows are
yeah,
lower.
the combat system I think it's just top notch.
Okay.
The
I agree.
the different ways you can approach combat.
I appreciate more than anything. I appreciate that it lets me
Yeah.
do what I'm interested in doing,
Yeah.
and that I don't have to bang my head against the same boss until I can beat them.
Correct.
To get to the next
Yes.
interesting thing.
Yeah.
Get good.
No,
And then
I'll never get
I'm
good.
just-
Taylor.
and then I'm going Bloodborne.
Okay.
And then I'm going Dark Souls 3.
Wow. Okay.
I love Dark Souls 3.
Yeah,
I do have a few complaints about it, but the combat is better than Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2.
Okay.
And it's got a ton of great looking bosses and great boss fights. And it's got some pretty interesting places to explore, but the level design is better in Dark Souls 1, for sure. And maybe even the boss design. It's tough.
Okay.
Dark Souls 2 is fun, but it feels like a spinoff. It feels like a Lords of the Fallen. It feels like a... I wouldn't
doesn't
say
feel
Neo
like a
because
Miyazaki
Neo-
game?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a Miyazaki game. You can definitely tell. Like, even if you didn't know that about it, you'd be like, wow, something's off
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
Demon Souls.
Yeah.
Where is Dark
There-
Souls
look.
1 and 2?
Look,
and
I've
Demon
acknowledged
Souls
all the
and
games.
Sekiro?
What do you want?
I said all their names.
We got Elden Ring.
We got Elden
We
Ring.
got Bloodborne.
Okay.
We got Dark Souls 3.
Yeah.
We've got probably Dark Souls 1.
Okay.
Then we've got like
Sekiro.
Sekiro.
Then Dark Souls.
No,
Demon
no, no.
Souls?
Demon Souls above Sekiro.
Okay.
Oh.
Then Sekiro. And although if I finished it, maybe my opinion would change. And then we're at Dark Souls 2.
Okay.
And then did I get them all?
I think so. I think
Okay.
that's it. Forget about that.
But that cycle is what I like so much about Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Like, I have options. I am discovering things. I'm uncovering things. I'm doing lots of cool stuff, and all the while, it is meeting me where I am. I don't have the time or patience or desire to fight a boss 15 times. If I fight them 5 times in a row and I don't feel like I'm making any progress, I'm not having fun anymore. And I've already talked about that too. So I'll just say that's what makes Elden Ring stand out as a unique entry in the Souls series for me, is that I feel it gives you autonomy in a way that is meaningful, that I appreciate.
Yeah.
And I won't rank them any further.
Okay. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
When I fought a boss that I was taking me 5 tries to beat, did that just go?
No.
Nope, that was my finger.
Oh.
Crack.
When it takes me 5 tries to beat a boss, I go, okay, let me think about my strategy.
Yeah.
And what am I doing wrong? But yeah, my normal strategy isn't working, which is take a 2-handed sword and smash them in the head when it looks like they're not looking. So, yeah. So,
Well, when it
nice.
looks like he's not looking, he is looking.
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah. I just think. So I'm gonna just go real quick through Demon Souls. I like the aesthetic. I like the medieval setting.
Yeah.
Um,
I love the medieval setting.
yeah.
It's
I love that
unique
one.
even in the Souls games,
Yeah.
I would say.
Dark Souls 1, it feels like every single area that you find is vastly different. Like, Demon Souls basically just has, like, just the medieval stuff outside of Valley of Defilement.
Yeah, Dark Souls, you've got like New Londo, Anor Londo, you got Blighttown, you got
White Town, yeah.
the Beta Chaos area. I can't think
yeah.
of the name of the area.
I can't remember, the lava level or whatever.
yeah.
And then they have the tree when you get and you go under the tree
Yeah.
or whatever it's
Yeah.
called.
There's a whole Go ahead. No.
Yeah. But Bloodborne, I love the combat and I
Yeah.
love the bosses. I think they're incredible. But the combat is just like freaking perfection.
Yeah.
I think it's just incredible. And then I like Elden Ring, but I couldn't tell you really much about it. Like, after we played the game, it's like, whenever I pick it back up, I'm like, yeah, this is fun. But I never think about it. I've talked to you about this before.
Okay,
I never
so
think about
you're
it
maidenless. You want to find a maiden.
after. No, that's not what I'm talking about.
Let me just give you a
I don't
quick
think about the
rundown here.
game after. And that's one thing about Souls games is I feel like you're like, oh, did you find this? Did you find this? Like the sense of community that you were talking about, Jared, is everybody's like kind of pitching in on this game and be like, oh my gosh, did you find this secret and stuff like that. With Elden Ring, it looks pretty. It's fun to play. It's the most accessible. But I don't think about it after I'm done playing it. I don't like strive to. Towards the end of the game, I was just like, man, I can't wait till this game is done.
Is that because
And-
you have a family?
No.
Is that because you have responsibilities now?
All of those things, yeah. But it's just like, well, it's hard to
It's because it hurts his hand to hold the controller.
Oh, that's what it is.
just
Yeah,
digest all this time
It's
into
his
this.
bones.
Yeah, but
The nurse keeps telling me it's time for my walk. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Oh,
come on.
get out of here, man. So, but I have a lot of fun with Dark Souls 2, especially when you and I played it. I think obviously it's like a mishmash of everything. The combat's kind of like almost so ridiculous. It's fun just because it's like insane.
yeah.
It's got outside of Elden Ring, I think it's got the most bosses in the Souls games.
Oh, it has a ton of bosses.
Yeah, which is insane.
for the size of the game.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, just boss.
Yeah, you
boss,
just go
boss,
anywhere
boss.
you want, basically.
Yeah.
or
It's like
whatever.
a boss rush.
They were like, we don't do level design so well.
Yeah.
So let's not do
Boss.
so many levels.
Yeah.
Can't say we're bad at it if we don't do it.
But Dark Souls 3 was when I was feeling massive soul fatigue.
I guess
Is
so.
when
Okay.
you were talking about, Jared, all of those derivative Souls-like games were coming out around
Yeah.
this time, and then Dark Souls 3 came out, and I was like, dude, I'm freaking burned out. And I just wanted more Bloodborne, and they tried to emphasize a little bit like faster movement, but I just really couldn't get into it.
Yeah.
And then Sekiro for me is just because of I think it's just they cranked it up too hard. It's just
Yeah.
too hard.
Yeah.
And it's like I got to the final boss and I never beat him, but it's just like I like
You did better than me.
yeah. I like the feudal Japan setting. I think it's cool.
Yeah. That's why I like Neo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And it has a lot of like mythology and stuff. Like the enemies are mythologically based. It's like folklore and stuff like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah. I don't know. I just wanted more from it, but I feel like they just
I think you do know. And I think it was too hard.
It was too hard. But I'm just saying, I think it's like when you look at Dark Souls, it's like, well, you can defeat this boss. Well, I guess you're leveling up, so you get stronger. But it's like Sekiro, it's all about
I think
more
that's-
skill.
I
But
think
it's
that,
just like
yeah.
I think
It's also about like how, if the combat feels less satisfying to
yeah.
you.
Well, it's like
because it is a different approach.
it's like well, I can only do 3 attacks, and it's like this enemy can do 100 attacks while you have to guard, and now you can only do 3. I don't know. It's just like you need to be on the same almost level playing field. I don't know to a certain degree if you're gonna make a game like that. I don't know. It just feels kind of insane.
I feel you.
So,
I feel you.
but that's where they're for me.
Okay.
Well,
It's good stuff.
just bring tissue next time.
Yep. For all my tears. But I'm excited to see what they do next.
Oh yeah, and honestly, I think I'd be more excited for a Dark Souls 4
Yeah.
than I would an Elden Ring 2.
Like a more smaller mainline game.
Yeah, just go like
Or more-
I just like the Dark Souls universe.
I think it would help the longevity of both of those like franchises, quote unquote, if they would alternate. If they would not do direct sequels.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'd be most excited for Bloodborne 2.
Yeah. 1,000%. Yeah.
Well, I think that would be even better if
Yeah.
they could alternate between
The
those
three.
and give each type of game 3 years. Would be the difference between 2
And then
3
stop
years
when I
is huge.
die.
Yeah, and then just stop when we die.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So
in
when
their
you go
retirement
when you're 20 years in the future and you're ignoring the 18 games that have come out and you're just
Yeah.
like, Ryan told me I could only play 2. So here I am.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what you want next is either a Bloodborne 2
Or Dark Souls 4.
or a Dark Souls 4.
Elden Ring 2, sure.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I would
Yeah.
definitely pre-order it. And
Yeah,
blah, blah,
indeed.
blah.
Yeah.
Well, next time we'll do a part 2 episode where we talk about your least favorite things and what features you would like to see in a future one
Of
of a Souls game.
Of a Souls game.
Of a Miyazaki
things
Souls
we
game.
want, like, okay.
Or like elements of existing Souls branch offs.
Yeah,
that
let's
you
do
want
it
to
right
see
now.
put into the.
Hello and welcome
Let's not do
to
it.
episode 2.
For listeners, I just looked at the time. Let's not do it right
Okay.
now.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thanks for joining us.
That's right.
Let us know where you rank the Souls games and give us your highlights. You can tell us your favorite bosses or just favorite moments.
Yeah, I love hearing people's favorite memories. about
Give us some
games they
stories to read.
Exactly.
And maybe we'll bring some up on a future episode.
Yeah.
love. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't.
Yeah, that's
Most
what maybe
likely will.
means.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 options.
It's the one option, by the way. Thanks for
shout out-
joining us.
Shout out to Sam Webster.
Sister. Shout out to Shams Webster.
Shame.
Schwam Schwebster.
Go quick, Ryan.
Sam Webster. Thanks.
Oh my god.
He makes good slapping music.
Yes,
Yeah,
he
he
does.
does.
And-
And 2 of them are our intro and outro songs.
Yeah, which is clock in and clock out, and I'm gonna drive Taylor crazy with this outro.
Not me though. I like it.
This camera's on me anyway. This one's on you guys.
That's fine.
Yeah,
That's
when this
fine.
dies, it's just no more
it's
us.
just no more you guys.
We'll cease to exist.
Yeah.
This is.
And
Going
what did
well.
I forget?
Oh, nothing. Don't forget to say.
Don't forget.
Don't forget to say.
Don't forget to say. Okay. Thank you.